Good morning, my friends. This is Dr. Gabriel, and I will be leading the next session of the Principle 50. It is called Building Collegial Relationships. And I understand that 'tis the season. It's a very, very hectic time of year, and sometimes coming to a principals meeting or even doing a book study might seem like just another thing, and you may feel like this. I certainly hope this is not the case, but if it is, let me assure you that this will be worth your time. Hopefully you are able to figure out from looking at the screen what this says here. It is do not mistake collegiality for congeniality, which is the title of this session. The pillars of building congenial relationships, okay? Congenial relationships. First, momentum is what separates potential from reality. As you are trying to establish yourself as a leader in your building, the hardest part is getting the train moving. But once the train's moving, as you can see from this awesome locomotive image right here, there's no stopping you. Another thing, it's lonely at the top. You have to pull capable people up to where you are to help manage the load because you can't handle it yourself. Because often as a leader, you may find yourself feeling like this. It's pretty bad stuff right there. I'm glad I wasn't on that ship. But you may have felt that way. Next, you can disagree without being disagreeable. I think we'll all agree that there's plenty of contention to be had sometimes as a building leader, but we don't have to be disagreeable. And the fact is, when you're trying to build congenial relationships, sometimes, guys, the truth hurts.
One time in college, this girl told me, "Hey, it's not you, it's me." I said, "You darn right it's you heifer." One time in college, this girl told me, "Hey, it's not you, it's me." I said, "You darn right it's you heifer."
You can't just say that one time. Silas Robinson's got it right. Sometimes it is you heifer. All right, more thoughts on building congenial relationships. It's very important to build trust first. If you don't establish with the foundation of trust, anything that you try to incorporate when you're leading, whether it's a department or a school, it's going to eventually erode because the more you put on top without a strong foundation, it's going to cave in. Clearly define what you value and expect through your actions. All right, what you're doing speaks so loudly, can't hear a word you're saying. As if this right here, this boy's playing a video game, and every word that this guy is yelling at him, which is probably his father, is going in one ear and out the other. So make sure that people don't have to wonder what message are you sending and what do you value as a leader. It's also important as a leader when you're wanting to build congenial relationships is to begin with the end in mind.
You better check yourself before you wreck yourself.
I agree with that. Thank you, Mr. Galifianakis. Pay attention to small details about your coworkers. That's very, very important when you want to build congenial relationships.
Great suckers. Your car insurance goes up because of their bad driving. So get Snapshot from Progressive and see just how much your good driving could save you.
Sorry about that Progressive commercial, folks.
Mystery!
Whoa! Hey! Whoa! Hey! Did you do something to your hair?
It's a bit extreme, isn't it?
No! I mean, that's a thing nowadays, right?
Well, he said it would accent my facial features.
Well, that's what it does. It completely accents your facial features. We're just gonna go down to my office now. Hey, Fletcher. Hey, Pete. You lose losing a little weight? I don't know. Maybe. Looks and personality. A double threat guy.
Hey, Mr. Reed.
Hey, man.
It's Randy.
Yeah, I know. Taking lunch orders,
Mr. Reed, anything?
No, thanks. Had so much for breakfast, I'm just about ready to pop.
Notice things about your coworkers. Unbelievably important. And I'm sorry that my home internet is choosing to freeze up in the middle of go time right now. Investments always precede withdrawals, so make sure that you are seeking ways that you can pour into the lives of your coworkers instead of always having to pull out. And third here, as you can see our friend the Grinch, be yourself, even if you're not by nature a people person. People do like authentic people. You cannot always control perceptions, but you must always be cognizant of them. This image here is probably driving any control freaks we have in the room crazy right now, because while you got the gallons exact, 1 cent away from perfection. All right? So just be aware of what people think, even though you know you can't change it. And also remember, as you're leading, remember the advice given by Mr. Pat and Rita, aka Mr. Miyagi.
Karate here. Karate here. Karate never here.
That's important to remember, folks. And also be aware of the power of the individual conversation. Sometimes there's one-on-one moments I have with you guys and that you guys have with teachers when you are post-conferencing or, in IEP meetings, and as those end, those are the times that you help shape and mold the culture and structure of your school and department. So never lose sight of how important those are. Now, into the meat of the presentation. It's important to remember that we do not want to confuse, or as I said on the first slide, mistake congeniality with collegiality. And there was an article in Ed Leadership called Improving Relationships Within the Schoolhouse from March 2006 that I wanted to bring into our presentation today because I feel like it was very, very relevant, and it exposed a gap in what I thought to be collegiality was actually congeniality. And before we leave today, I want to make sure that you guys are able to clearly define the difference between the two. Now, congeniality involves positive, friendly interactions, typically around food or a coffee pot. Here's an example of someone who's excited about food.
Tommy likey. Tommy want wingy. 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 Tommy want wingy.
That never gets old, does it, folks? Chris Farley, may he rest in peace. All right, congeniality. And what just happened? Sorry. Collegiality, however, folks, is the hardest type of relationship to establish. Famous baseball manager Casey Stengel stated, getting good players is easy. Getting them to play together is the hard part. Here's some signs that your players are playing together. Educators talk with one another about effective practice. Educators share their craft knowledge. Educators observe one another while they're engaged in practice. And educators root for one another's success. So these are 4 variables relative to school, to your school buildings, that let you know whether collegiality is truly taking place or not. All right, talking about practice. All right, here are the 4 variables that we just mentioned. First, talking about practice. Instead of simply talking about life, sports, news, happenings, actually talk about the work of educating students. Second, sharing craft knowledge. Purposely provide opportunities for staff to share problems they're encountering and how they're dealing with them. It creates a new taboo against withholding information. So similarly, sometimes in buildings when you start showing people data, they get a little antsy, but once that becomes the norm, then they're sometimes approaching, you'll find staff members approaching you saying, hey, have you gotten this test scores back yet? Or have you gotten this back yet? Similarly, when it becomes the new norm, people feel that it's not okay to withhold. Next, observing one another. Start by hosting meetings in classrooms to allow educators into each other's sacred spaces. Require the host staff member to present on something that they consider to be one of their best practices or one that you have observed as an administrator. Maintain a chart in the faculty workroom that notes who has or hasn't been observed by a peer. Have a principal or director shadow you as a principal for part of the day and have them give you feedback about how you did your job, to kind of mirror how we want faculty to observe each other and give and receive feedback. The hosting meetings thing, that is something once I had moved to the planning period meeting format where I had groups of less than 25 teachers. We always hosted those in a teacher's classroom because I think it's good to get other teachers into other teachers' rooms, especially in high school where a lot of times that doesn't happen. But I really, really like this idea about having a principal director shadow me for part of the day. And if you as a building leader do this, I think that would be very powerful in terms of the feedback you get, but also when you tell your staff, I wanted to get some feedback on how I'm doing my job. And from a fellow practitioner, instead of an egghead like Dr. Gabriel, would actually build you some street cred. And then finally here, rooting for one another. Allow staff to bounce students to your classroom. Cover each other's classes. Task staff with bringing issues to PLC meetings for fellow staff to assist in developing solutions. Write notes of encouragement for faculty members detailing positive practices you've noted in their classroom. And there are many, many more examples in this article. I just tried to pull some of the highlights that I felt like were most relevant. Okay, tips. What can I really, really do as a school leader to help build the collegiality I'm looking for? First, as I had noted earlier, which is also a way to build congeniality, state your expectations explicitly. Example, I expect all of us to work together, share our craft knowledge, and help each other out any way we can. Sounds a lot like a mission statement, doesn't it? Tip number 2, model collegiality. Also a connection back to my initial thing about what you do speaks so loudly I can't hear a word you're saying. Having another principal visit one of your faculty meetings or shadow you for part of a day, celebrate your staff via newsletters, announcements, handwritten notes, personal interactions where you acknowledge significant actions on the part of each staff member, that models collegiality. Because it's not just a matter of, hey, happy birthday, champ, sport. It's actually you acknowledging something they're doing that's helping the work of the organization. Tip number 3, reward those who behave as colleagues. Grant release time for staff when you can. Provide staff with additional resources for things they want to do in their classroom. Innovative grant, if you will, type deal when there's things that you have a little instructional supply money left. You approach some of those people who really are leading the way in your building and see if there's anything that they need. Recognize them via the celebration ideas from the last section that we had just went through, and provide additional workspace when available. Tip number 4, protect those who engage in these collegial behaviors. This harkens back to the book study that we had done this summer on shifting the monkey, where you don't want to embarrass or put the person on the spot that you're trying to celebrate, because then that makes them targets of comments and everything else from some of their more snarky colleagues. But instead of putting a teacher on the spot and having them talk about something in their classroom, let the teacher know in advance that you would like to share what you saw, aka from classroom walkthrough. That's one feature. There's a lot of features I like about that instrument, but I really, really like that one, where you tell the teacher, I'd really like to share this with somebody. Example, in Mr. Nelson's class the other day, I noted his use of question stems that address the higher levels of Bloom's revised taxonomy. He was discussing blank. Mr. Nelson, I really apologize for putting you on the spot, but your use of this strategy was relevant and effective. Do you have anything to add? And what the article intonated is that often